Welcome to the 8th devlog, where I turn this into this using roughly the same code and all my sanity. So sit back, grab something, and enjoy this god-awful experience that we call game development. Alright, the 29th of February was the first day that I started working officially on this labyrinth, and I'd started off with something real easy. Now, by changing the room scale and the height, that would effectively transform the labyrinth into a much larger and wider open area. And that is exactly what I want out of this second labyrinth here. Now, this probably sounds way too easy, and you would be completely correct because once I ran it, oh god, the performance tank, holy hell. There's just so much physics. Okay, and now I know the exact reason for this, and it's because I had actually always had the ceilings start with a rigid body. And so I had taken off the rigid body, and then I add them dynamically as the ceiling collapses. So the game should run much smoother now. And that actually covers it for the first day of work, because I'd started work much later into the night. And let's go on to the next day then. Alright, Monday, I'd started off my day by catching a cockroach in my room, and then instead of killing him, I'd made him listen to Papa Roach. Wait, hold on, that's not in the script. Monday, I'd started more work on the appearance of the labyrinth and visual effects of it. So I started by taking out the torches because it's supposed to be like a nature kind of feel for the labyrinth. So I'd ended up making a spore bulb sort of thing. It's kind of more just like a half circle, but it gets the job done. And I made sure to keep the triangles, faces, all the data like that pretty low because I want this labyrinth to be scattered to the brim with them. So I had edited the generation code just a little bit to get that randomization positioning all working there. So now the labyrinth is starting to look like this here. Though the labyrinth still feels very static, and it needs more flair, it needs something more to give that nature feel. Now, even with that, the labyrinth was still feeling a little too similar, so I had allowed the spore bulbs to also spawn on the ceilings as well. At this point, I was thinking that the labyrinth was actually looking pretty cool. Though, unfortunately, we run into yet another issue. See, there's these things called batches, which, in the most simple way to explain it, there's another batch for each mesh that is drawn to the screen. Or, at least I think that's how it works. So, by adding all of these spore bulbs, having them spawn 3 times as likely as a torch, and having multiples of them spawn on a wall, the batches count had actually gone up by like 700 or something absurd like that. So I had split the labyrinth up into a few different sections, and within each of those sections, all the spore bulbs in that section would be considered one mesh, and it would greatly lower the batches and overall much better performance. So, that's out of the way. Now, at this point, I was somehow up for about 21 hours, and collapsed. So, let's get on with the next day here. So, I started Tuesday off by making a new destructible around the labyrinth. So, I jumped into Blender, and I modeled this, and after that, I had felt like giving a shot at making a new item for the second labyrinth. Though, before I do that, I had to make a bunch of changes to the actual treasure chest code, in the item database code, so that I can restrict one item to be found in one labyrinth or another, because before now I didn't actually need to worry about that stuff. Fortunately, this change in code did not take that long, and then I had to do some human things like eating and going to— How in the hell did it become 5 in the afternoon? Alright, so looking back on it, it became 5 in the afternoon so quickly that day because I was actually helping a lot of people on Discord servers with their issues in Unity. So it took me a little while, but I did manage to code the base of the item. Its usage is strange, definitely, but it's there. The item is currently in the code as the Eye of the Snake, and having 1 stack of this item will allow you to paralyze them if you look at them for 4 seconds. So as it was getting closer and closer to the night, I had decided that I wanted to make one more thing. So I had been playing around with the labyrinth, and I realized that the spore bulbs don't actually vanish when the walls and ceilings are destroyed. To summarize this issue, or rather the reason why it was happening, was because of that whole combining meshes thing that I did to, save on optimization, and it therefore broke the game by screwing this whole destruction thing over. Oh boy, now this optimization was a pain. There's no other way to describe it, because I had needed to fix it, but I also needed to make sure that the way I was fixing it was performant friendly, meaning that I had to find a way for each of the spore bulbs the one specific section and tell that section to not render that one specific spore bulb anymore because that spore bulb is gone. The issue took me a good few hours to actually resolve, and more if you include the time where I was talking to my friend about the issue and to see if he had any insight on it. And to make a long story short, it had ended up being about 3 in the morning. Alright, so I had actually lied. It's currently 5:17. That did not go as smoothly as I had expected, and I just kind of want to sleep. Okay, good old Wednesday. So I woke up about 3 hours later. Now, as I'm recording this, in hindsight, I should have just went back to sleep, but I didn't. So I started work on a new enemy that would be specific to that labyrinth. This enemy was kind of inspired by those tree ent things, or just Groot, really. Groot probably is more like it. And I had this much done before I collapsed once again, because I didn't get enough sleep. Man, there's definitely a trend with me, isn't there? So I had ended up waking up at like 6 in the afternoon, and I had worked on a basic rig form to make him look more like a dancer. To make animations for him. That's right, yeah. So after all the animations, I had imported him into Unity, and he's missing his bottom left leg? What? Okay, but the Blender file has a leg, and that one weird Paint 3D program on Windows 10 also showed the full leg. So, what? Well, I was clueless about this, so I was Googling a whole bunch of things about missing meshes or having a wrong orientation on the rig, and I eventually just kinda did anything that I thought would even have a remote chance of fixing it. So I tried to recalculate the normals, I tried to make a new material, I tried to reassign the rig with automatic weights, I tried crying not only in a corner, but in a corner in VR while in a corner in real life, and that didn't even work. So I took a look at the weight painting for each bone, and everything looked perfectly fine. But just as I was losing hope, this man, Kuna, came to save the day. I followed his instructions, unparented, and parented the armature, and it still didn't work. Kuna, I must say that you got my hopes up and dashed them quite expertly. So I was kind of curious, and I had exported only the mesh into the project, and I ended up killing him. Uh-oh. But by killing him, we 100% know that's the armature's fault, which we kind of already did because the mesh actually looked completely normal. So fast forward about an hour and a half, and it took me a cup of water and discovering that one weird Red Solo Cup song by Toby Keith to figure this out. That is not a lie, I had actually figured out the issue while that song was playing. And it turns out I was overthinking this. Now, do you want to see what the hell I was caught up on? Because here it is. I'm done. I'm done for the night. Screw it. Alright, my voice is probably different because I'm recording this 2 days after, on Saturday. And I've done 2 things so far in the day, but I need to get this video out there. So I'll be doing the rest of it past the actual publishing date of this video, and I'll go over them next week. So the first thing I did was actually add some new textures to the second labyrinth walls. I had gone outside, took a picture of some moss, made it seamless in Photoshop, and then made a normal map for it, and this is how it looks now. This is not my favorite, but I had to get something else different from the first labyrinth. And the other thing I did today was start to work on the animator controller for the Nature Giant, which is what that enemy was called, that I made on Wednesday or Tuesday. One of those days. The giant starts in a dormant state, and then once the player gets near him, he'll wake up and he will either jump or attack. And if he ends up jumping, then when he lands, he will actually summon a bunch of roots around the player. These roots are currently considered enemies, so as you hit all of them, with like a wide swing of the sword, your screen is going to shake. Just a lot. Just way too much. So I'm going to need to write some code to prevent that from happening. And there's a few other things that I'll go over next week. But I think that covers it for this devlog. So if you enjoyed this, I'll be leaving a whole bunch of links in the description below for a Discord, the actual game download, Twitter, and the Kickstarter. Thank you so much for watching this video. I tried a completely different approach to these devlogs, and I actually had a ton of fun editing this one. And I hope you enjoyed the outcome of it. So, see you guys.